Denny, you started out, and by the way, you putting forward the process, not always easy, but the opportunity to sit with you and go through that hearing process and this process, I appreciate that each year, both with its positives and negatives. So thank you for helping to make that process work. But as we stand here today, you gave some of the overall numbers, and thank you for doing that on the overall budget. And as you were speaking, some of us, or I guess all of us as I look around, have received the financial plan in their hands. So I just like, we just in time. So in looking at that, one of the areas you didn't mention when you were giving some of the overall figures were the general fund numbers. Do you have a total on the general fund?
Yes, I do. But before I want to thank you. When you talk about the hearings, you were very good. Every time we were there, we went through, and those late nights, you were always next to me. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Well. But the general fund budget is estimated to be at $72.6 billion.
And compared to the executive, do we know, did that change?
It's 198 million, or 0.03% over the executive. This is an increase of 2.9 billion, or 4.17% over state fiscal year 2016 and 17. 2016-17.
Thank you. And you did talk, the state operating funds has been the area that the governor has pushed at trying to keep within a 2% cap. And your mention was that it was 98.1 is the increase, and that is within that 2% cap?
Yes, exactly.
One of the things we don't have, though, he had proposed a number of things, you know, in the budget. We don't have all the final things to be able to analyze. Have there been a number of movements, though, of some things outside the what would have normally been in those state operating funds to help us get there? I know in the governor's proposal, for instance, there have been to take some people in construction or capital area and move those, you know, out of the state operating. Are we going to see more of those types of things having been done as a way to stay within that? Or are we really holding down to the 2%?
We're doing about 220 million, give or take a dollar.
Of shifting to
yes.
some other areas. What are projected budget gaps looking out down the road? Do we have some of those projections here now that we have a financial plan? Do we know those numbers?
We have really not come up with our figures yet. We'll have that before the day is over.
Okay, we'll look forward to re-asking that question. And when we look at the receipts coming into the state during the year, so we've talked about the spending and the different areas of the budget. What about receipts? What all funds, general funds? Do you have numbers for those?
Let's see, the general funds, as I said before, enacted receipts are $71,281,000,000, and the State operating funds is $97,671,000,000. And the state funds, am I going too fast?
No, you're good.
State funds, $106,206,000,000, and all funds enacting receipts is $160,608,000,000.
So all funds spending 163 billion, receipts 160. The difference on those?
$1.9.
And those are federal dollars that make up that
Yes.
that differentiation. Thank you. And reserve funds, I think critical to a lot of us as we think about the size of the state budget and just if we're off or if the economy turns down. Where do we stand with rainy day and tax stabilization fund?
There we have a tax stabilization reserve funds of $1,258,000,000, and then we have rainy day reserves of $609 million. Contingency reserve $21 million. Community projects fund 37 million. 500 and reserves for debt management 500 million, and reserve for potential labor will be 155 billion. The settlement funds total become 3,256,000,000.
And the debt reserve fund, did we add anything to that this year, or is there cash behind that 500 million?
No, we didn't.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful to get an overall picture. I was, though, as we were talking, the all funds 153.3 back to the total amount 153.3 billion. As I remember, the governor's proposal was 152 something. How much has been added from the governor's proposal on an all funds basis to what we're looking at today?
That's million. Yeah, 964 million. Those are funds adjusted. We adjusted them.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell, for giving me an overview of the overall budget. Now, as this bill that we have before us, the Public Protection and General Government Bill, just quite a few questions about that, unless you want to give tell us what this bill does, and then I'd be happy to ask it.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick moment. This bill would enact into law major components of legislation that are necessary to implement the state fiscal year 2017-2018 budget as it pertains to the public protection and the general government budget. Yes.
A few questions related to that. When we did the extender, earlier this week, I guess, I remember there were some provisions in there on sweeps and transfers of dollars. But typically we would see that language in this bill. And so I would imagine we're going to still do some more sweeps and transfers. If we don't see it in this bill, which in going through it, we didn't find that, will we, or do we know where that's going to be, or where will?
Are you asking, are we going to continue to use that? Or?
Well, I'm sure we will be using the sweeps. We approved some, but I guess I'm saying we need to still do some more. Typically, we would see it here in this bill. It isn't here now, and so I'm just checking to see.
No, but I think what's in there will hold for the 12 months.
Okay.
Right? And it'll be in the revenue bill.
The revenue bills. Okay, thank you. And I know the governor had his proposal on shared services, and it isn't included in here. Is that still in the mix? Are we expecting to have that, and will there be language somewhere else dealing with this?
Also in the revenue bill. That'll come. I did that. The revenue bill, which we'll be doing later, I hope, this evening.
I hope so as well. Thank you, Mr. Farrell.
Thank you.
On the bill?
On the bill, Mr. Oaks.
We are thankfully at this point where I could ask some of the questions on the overall sense of this budget and now the budget process. We have now a financial plan that we can begin to review more closely. I appreciate the chairman's answers, but it's clear also there's certain questions, as he said, possible budget gaps in future years, other information that we don't know the answers to yet because there's a number of things that are still uncertain about the overall budget. As we look at this specific bill, there are things that would normally be in it that aren't there, but as the chairman said, we can anticipate some of those things coming in future bills. We appreciate that. We've had some of the information on this bill, reviewed it. People may have individual concerns and whatever, but a lot of the actual significant issues are not contained within this. On this bill, at this point, it's my intention to vote in favor, but I look forward to seeing the future bills that will give us the full picture of the budget for 2017-2018. Thank you very much.